What's up, guys, everybody? Welcome into the Auburn Blitz podcast here on a Thursday morning. Getting started a little bit early this morning, as we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Get your comments in. We'd love to hear from you. And, we got a big one coming up on Saturday. I don't think that's that's breaking news to anybody out there with what's coming on. What's up, Randy? How are you?
Glad to be here.
Looking all stern this morning.
Well, I got a day full of it, and I had a night full of it last night.
No pun intended.
No, we got a lot going on, but I do want to take a quick chance to talk about what I was working on last night, finishing up analytics for our AHSA side. If a lot of you are tuning in and you see us as just the Auburn guys, we also own the rights to the Alabama High School Athletic Association, the radio network. We do a lot of social media posting there. We got some great sponsors that allow us to do that. We try to put as much content as possible out there. I think that we put probably more high school sports content out than really anyone in the state, and we're proud of that. But we've got a really busy week coming up here in a couple of weeks, as we'll be over in Birmingham to call all of the semifinal and finals for the boys and girls state championships. So just want to take a chance, take an opportunity here for a lot of you that are new to our programming to know that high school sports here in this state is very, very important to us. We try to cover recruiting, especially in this state, as much as anyone out there, and we'll continue to do that. But I'd love to hear from you. If you're in a community that you don't think gets enough praise for how great their high school sports are, find us, AHSA Radio Network, all kinds of social media outlets that we're throwing content to. So send me personal messages there, and I'll make sure that the kids get the acclaim that they deserve.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd put us up against anybody when it comes to high school sports here in the state. I mean, it's what we do, and it ties right into what we do here on this Auburn show with recruiting. And there's a lot of great guys out there that follow recruiting and know what's going on. But and no shot at any other program. Again, I don't really watch anybody else's stuff, and I'm serious when I say that, because we're so busy doing our own stuff. But when you look at it from a standpoint of we're in basketball season right now, so why wouldn't you be talking about this game on Saturday? I mean, I know I'm going somewhere with this point. Most people get enamored and they figure out a way to talk about football every single day in some form or fashion, and just create something that just keeps on. I mean, I just digging up something because it's football talk. But I mean, if you're Auburn right now and you're not talking about this game, you're running some type of a podcast or show out there, and you're not talking about what's going on in the state with these two basketball programs. That's your prerogative. But that's what we're going to talk about here on the show today. And again, owning the state of Alabama in recruiting and how good a basketball we've had in this state in high school for years. And Auburn and Alabama used to not be, when we started all this with HSA, wasn't even an option. I mean, top ranked players looked outside of this state. And man, how much the sport of basketball has changed in that amount of time in the last 20 years. I think back to DeMarcus Cousins and Eric Bledsoe, and I can go on and list guys, and we weren't even in it because our program wasn't even comparable. It wasn't even a consideration for them because they wanted to go play and compete for a championship somewhere, and Auburn wasn't even in that mix, and Alabama really wasn't either at that time. And they'd get a player here or there because they had, a little bit better coaching, a little bit better program, but not much better. And now it's flipped on its head in this world, and anybody in the state of Alabama that's any good would love to have an offer from either of these programs. And now you look at Kentucky and Duke and all of those programs that we used to say, well, we can't compete with anybody like that. I mean, if there's a top-ranked player in Alabama, they're absolutely going to go out of state. That's not the case anymore. I mean, we've set the bar here in the state of Alabama and in the world of college basketball is the Mecca. And you got the number one and the number two teams in the country playing each other on Saturday at 3:00. And that's why I said, is this the biggest game in SEC regular season history? It's the first time it's ever happened, so I'd have to say yes.
Well, I'll start with the recruiting. And you and I have had a front row seat to watch the effort that these two programs gave 15 to 20 years ago when it came to recruiting the state of Alabama in basketball, and the state of those two programs right now when it comes to competing against one another for top recruits, not only in this state, but throughout the country, and definitely in the state of Georgia when it comes to Auburn. And we, unfortunately, as Auburn fans, have had two of the worst college recruiters that's ever been through the Southeastern Conference, one on the basketball side and one on the football side in the last 20 years. Tony Barbee is one of the worst basketball coaches and quite possibly the worst basketball recruiter that I've ever seen. I remember doing a program with you, and I don't know how many years ago, but we were talking about a kid from Australia named Jack Purchase. Somehow, Auburn had passed up everybody in the state of Alabama, and we had used every excuse possible on why we couldn't recruit based off of the clothing supplier that we had, the shoe supplier that we were. Do you remember this program with each other?
Absolutely.
Every
well,
excuse,
that's what losers do.
Well, he was a true loser, and he had every excuse in the book. And then, so we get rid of him, and thank the good Lord above, Bruce Pearl shows up, and then all of the excuses go out. It takes him a few years to get things settled because Tony Barbee left it in such a mess. And I guess everything else is history. But you look at football also. Brian Harsin, no effort here in the state of Alabama. Zilch.
How about no effort anywhere?
Well, the worst part I have, because you and our bread's buttered in the state of Alabama. I know coaches in this state. I know programs in this state. I talk to them. We see them at all the championship and all-star events. We know the figures that are key components to whether you get those guys in the state of Alabama or you don't. Zero effort. No excuse whatsoever to ever go out there as an administration and a leadership to hire somebody and just allow them to get away with what was allowed to get away with at Auburn for way too many years. So now both of our programs, and I'm going somewhere with this on the football side. You're going to have to give me a minute to talk a little football here, Brett. Hugh Freeze making that effort now. Now, does it transfer over to winning football games on the field? I hope. But you can't say anything negative about the effort he and his coaching staff are doing here in the state of Alabama. I do think it will result in wins on the field, the same as it has for Bruce Pearl, but it takes effort. And I think we're getting effort when it comes to both of these coaches. Do you go to your question, though? Is this the biggest game in SEC regular season history? It is for us. Kentucky making come back, Tennessee making come back, Florida making come back, and have an argument. I don't think anybody.
Well, somebody just tell us who in the regular season matchup was bigger. I mean, there's not been one.
When it's 1 versus 2.
There's never been that before.
But for the state of Alabama, this is even bigger. You take two key rivals, get them to 1 and 2, not two perennial powers either. And you get this sustained success that these two programs have had over the last, 7 to 10 years? 7 or 8 years for sure.
Yep.
This isn't just a one and done for these two programs. I think that there's great days now and great days ahead as long as these two coaches stay on board and these two fan bases stay as succinct as they are with those programs, because you'll see a rabid fan base. We like to throw darts at Alabama, but it won't be a fun place to go and play in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. And when they come to us in a couple of weeks, it's going to be a straight misery here in Auburn for them. And both of our programs have held suit when we've been good recently, Brett. They beat us when we've gone over there. We've beaten them when they've come here. I think that gives Auburn a great opportunity here to change that storyline and to go over to Tuscaloosa and to get a win. And what a great start it was to the week to go to Vandy. That is a very hard place to play. I think that's an NCAA tournament team that had already beaten Kentucky and Tennessee at home. And for us to go over there and win that thing by double digits and play the way that we did in the second half, and Denver Jones to play the way that he did in the first half, and maybe we'll go to that next, Brett. But it was a great, great start to the week to get a win over Vandy.
Yeah, anytime you get a road win and then in a place where they were 12-1 and you heard Bruce Pearl in the press conference. I think we had won 7 out of our last 8 against Vanderbilt, but prior to that, we had lost 13 in a row to them. So going to Memorial Gymnasium has never been a good place for Auburn, and it's not a good place for a lot of teams when Vanderbilt's playing good basketball, and they're playing good basketball right now. And I agree with you. They're definitely in the middle tier of the SEC, which puts them firmly in the NCAA tournament right now, unless they have some type of collapse. So going back to this game on Saturday, you're right. I mean, it's a monumental feat for Alabama, but it's a monumental feat for the SEC. And it goes back to what we were talking about a couple of days ago. Is this the best SEC conference that we've ever seen, best version of the SEC? And Jay Billis said it the other day. He said, without a doubt, it's the strongest league maybe in the history of college basketball, top to bottom, because of the level of competition. Now, we're not talking about winning a championship. We're talking about the level of play, the physicality, the amount of teams that are in the top 15 in this league. And if you look up and you see that historical mark and that many people talking about how great this league is right now, and you look at Auburn and Alabama being at the top of this league, just kind of tells you that in the past, it's always been Kentucky and everybody else. And we know that. But there's not been anybody else really on a regular basis that's been good enough to challenge to make Kentucky a 1 versus 2. So to have a 1 versus 2, you got to have multiple teams that can challenge. And so none of us have been able to do that. Now you got 5 or 6. You got Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Texas A&M. I can keep going on. I didn't even mention Kentucky. How about that? I rattled off 5 teams before I even got to Kentucky. So yeah, this is a historic game, and you're going to play it again on March the 8th. And that game could be just as historic. It could still be 1 versus 2, and it could be for the regular season championship in March 8th. I don't know what's going to happen between Saturday and the end of the season, but I don't see these two programs collapsing. And I think it sets up an epic battle. The tickets are already stupid high for that March the 8th game. They're only going to go up in value if teams hold serve. So I'll go back to your analysis of Vanderbilt. I'll let you give your take on that win, because we talked about it for a while yesterday. And Chaney Johnson, Denver Jones, obviously in each half really carried Auburn.
Well, sometimes you got to run the offense through players that you need to get going. And I thought that that's what happened in the first half. Now, Denver's knocking down shots, and when he's knocking down shots, that's a whole different standpoint than what I was bringing up earlier in the week. But earlier in the week, when Denver Jones gets out of a basketball game and he plays as many minutes as he does, and he only shoots the ball 4 times, there's a lot of reasons that could happen. But the offense not running through him is a problem. And I think that Auburn cleaned that up. And defensively, you can't tell me Vandy wasn't still putting immense pressure. I watch Vandy. They get after you on the defensive end. They're very athletic. Their guard plays as athletic as anybody out there. But Denver just had a massive first half, and that's what Auburn needed. You know, that was your biggest issue last weekend when you watched that Florida game. Auburn can't lose the point guard position by 15 points combined. You know, between Pettiford and Denver Jones, they can't go and get 12 and the opposition get 30 between their 2 point guards. And Auburn consistently think we're going to beat the best teams in the country. I'm talking about the top 5 or 6 teams, which we're one of those.
Right.
And that has been a little bit of our fault over the last, since 2018, is a lot of times our point guard play hasn't held up with as good as the best out there in the country, and it's cost us some games and cost us some good runs in the tourney based off of that. So you need Denver to go, but you also got to run offense through him to get him to go. I think Todd's going to go get his, Brett. But Denver's more of a half-court set type of player. You know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Denver's not one that he can because he's physical, and I do like him getting downhill and getting into the lane and getting that big body in to some smaller guards. But he's not a one-on-one player as much as Tahad is. Tahad's going to go, and if he senses he's only got 3 shots so far in the game, he could come down 4 straight possessions, one-on-one with the point on him up top, and he can go get him a shot. Denver's not that. So I felt like, and I love your thoughts, but it looked like in the first half, the offense flowed through Denver, and he knocked down shots. And then, my gosh, in the second half, Bruce Pearl just one time after another down the court just set up isolations for Chaney Johnson, and Chaney took it in one-on-one opportunities and hit some three-point shots, then got the ball, got his back to the bucket, and made some turnaround jump shots. Just did a little bit of everything, but the offense rolled through Chaney there in the second half.
Yeah, went on a 9-0 run by himself. And, that's what smart basketball teams do is when somebody is hot, you feed them until they quit making them. And Vanderbilt had really fought back and right there at the end of the first half and then took a lead in the second half. And then Chaney said, watch out. This is what I'm about to do. And you love to see him as a player recognize that maybe CBM was off, Janai was off, and I got to step up and I got to do more. And he did that. And going back to Denver, Stephen Pearl came out and said after the game, and Bruce even said it too, that Stephen had worked with Denver after that Florida game and told him, said, look, man, you can't just take 4 shots. You're a scorer. We got to have you score. So you're not going to score when you only shoot 4 times. So he said, go find your shot and make sure that, you're giving yourself a chance to put as many points on the board as you possibly can. And I thought that was key, maybe from an unselfish standpoint of Coach Pearl looking him in the face and saying, man, quit being so unselfish. We've got to have your score. You're not just a point guard. I know that it's your job to distribute the ball, but sometimes you got to go get yours too. And I thought that was key. And then of course, Chaney is such a great player, great person, works the hardest. And you hear Coach Pearl say that over and over and over and over and over about Chaney Johnson being the hardest worker on the team and doing above and beyond. And he said, you saw those post moves he was making. He said, it's because he's in the gym for hours working on that, working on his technique and trying to be a better basketball player. So going to have to take that effort on the road, Randy. I mean, you're going into a place that's going to be rabid, and Alabama thinks they're the number 1 team in the country, and they should. So there's a lot to prove on Saturday between. It's going to be a physical game, very physical game.
Better defend the perimeter exceptionally well too, because this Alabama team, like most, they're going to put up numbers of 3-point shots. They don't shoot it as well as we do, but they put up enough of them that when they get rolling, you can look up.
29 or 30 of them probably.
Yeah, I think they're shooting 34% from 3, and we're shooting 37. But they're gonna, if they can get it rolling, they're a really streaky shooting team. And Holloway's been one of the best shooters in the SEC this year, and he's got a lot of confidence. And when a guy struggled as much as he did last year, to come back this year, and when you've got confidence and you're matching up against a team that it didn't work out for you last year, maybe he takes advantage of that. But I hope Auburn does a really good job on the perimeter of not giving up open threes. You go back to that Duke game that we lost, Brett. The issue in that basketball game is way too many open threes and not getting back in transition, not defending the 3-point arc in transition. And they had a guy go off for 18 points there in the first half. And a lot of those shots weren't defended shots. They were corner threes where we were just really bad communicating on who's picking up who. And that will need to be cleaned up because this is an outstanding offensive team for Alabama. They got 6 or 7 guys that can go get 15 to 20 points. We do too. Not many teams in the country can say, I've got 6 or 7 that night in and night out. I don't know which one of it may be 2 or 3 of them that go and get 15 to 20 points, but Alabama's got that same dynamic with them, that they're really deep when it comes to putting up a lot of points on the board. And it's the reason they're one of the best offensive teams in the country.
Yeah. Coach Pearl talked about, getting lazy on the perimeter. He said he thought that was part of it against Florida, and that was part of it against Vanderbilt at times.
Yes.
Is that he said we used to pride ourselves, and I think this was a message to the team in the post-game press conference. He said we used to pride ourselves in, defending the perimeter better than anybody in the country. And he said we've kind of gotten away from that, and it's cost them. You do that Saturday, you could get blown out.
Oh yeah, you get beat 95 to 75.
That's right. So Alabama's going to shoot 30 threes in that game probably. I think they made 19 the other night against Texas, either 17 or 19. The magic number I've said for for 5 years for Auburn is 10. And if you defend the way Auburn does normally, and Auburn goes and gets 10 3-pointers, you gotta like your chances. I sent something over to you guys last night that I thought was interesting, and we'll talk about that. When you look at a breakdown and you look at the way these two teams play, Alabama's 1-3 in high major games that it doesn't score more than 81 points. Auburn is 3-2 in games when allowing its opponents to score 81 plus points. So it said, basically looking at it, the line in the sand, according to this tweet, is about 81 points. That's where it's going to settle. Auburn doesn't give up that 81 points very often. And they did against Florida. In the games that they've struggled, they did against
games we've lost. We did.
So how is that going to play out Saturday? If Auburn keeps them in the 70s, you really like your chances of winning this basketball game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think this is a world-beating basketball team for Alabama. But if you don't defend them well, like Ole Miss did there, Coleman Coliseum, a month or so ago.
Right.
If you defend them that way, this is a very beatable team. They're not a really physical group. When they've got Philon and Holloway in the basketball game together and Sears is not in there, this is a perimeter basketball team. And you've got to physical them up. And we can do that. We've got really physical guard play on the perimeter. But you can be as physical as you want. If you lose your spots and you lose communication and you do a lot of switching and the switching is not communicated well and it leaves open shots, that's what worries me about Aiden Holloway. I mean, they're going to move right out there on the perimeter. There's going to be a lot of picking and there'll be a lot of moving parts. If you body him up, we saw it last year. He's not good with it. If you play him physical, he's Wendell Green. I can keep going down the list. Auburn's had a whole bunch of them, but you must physical them up, and you've probably got to throw a number of players in and out to keep them fresh to do that, or they'll get off. And I like our chances. I really do. I think this Auburn basketball team knows how to go on the road, and defense travels. We've had a couple of lapses this year defensively, especially on the perimeter, but two stats to watch. And I know that, anybody you listen to talk is going to say this. Offensive rebounding and made threes is going to be the two stats to check out. Alabama is very athletic on the wings, very physical and strong on the wings. Grant Nelson, I don't think he's a world beater, but that guy just does a lot of things well. He's not a superstar by no means, but he defends well in the post. He can knock down free throws late in the basketball game, but he gets random offensive rebounds. And the rest of those wings that they have are very physical. So we got to box out and we got an offensive rebound. We haven't been great at that recently either, Brett. We've done a really good job of offensive rebounding. We're great at that also. Janai's outstanding. Even though Janai's a little gimpy, he's still going to get 5 to 7 offensive boards a game. And that's key putbacks in a lot of those opportunities. So those two stats will be one I'll be watching.
Yeah, I'm concerned, to be honest with you. We get out rebounded a lot. And Vanderbilt out rebounded us the other night. Florida out rebounded us. I can just keep going down. We haven't been a very good rebound team all year. Now we have spurts, but yeah, you're right. I mean, second and third opportunities at the basket are going to be huge on the offensive side, but I'm worried about their physicality inside and their length. And the reason I say that is because Broome hasn't been Johni Broome since the ankle, and he has no explosion off the floor. He was not a guy, as Jason said Monday, that ever played above the rim. But now with this ankle injury, I mean, I watched him for a half the other night against Vanderbilt, not even challenge guys coming inside. And he used to get a boatload of blocks too, and he hasn't been getting any block shots either. So he's out of it, in my mind, from a standpoint of not being a comparable player. And then that leaves you with Dylan, because Chad Baker-Mazara is banged up and he's thin. I mean, we talk about Grant Nelson maybe being a thin guy, but Chad Baker-Mazara may be one of the thinnest guys for anybody. So who do we have left? That leaves Chaney Johnson in there.
Grant Nelson's physical too, though.
But he is.
He can be as thin as he wants to be. That guy's physical.
He is physical, but he got knocked around in the tournament last year against some really good teams. So, but the point is, who do we have left after you get past Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell?
I'll give you an answer.
You got Chaney Johnson and Chris Moore.
Chaney Johnson needs to play 30 minutes a game.
Right.
He might be our best player. There's your when the ball.
Well, he's gonna have to play like it Saturday.
When he gets the opportunities, he's proven he is. And the moment that this coaching staff and Chaney Johnson and the team realizes that this isn't Chaney that we saw last year. This is a different Chaney. This is a Chaney that can go and average 15, 16 points a game if he gets enough shots up. And I like Auburn staying athletic on the court. And what does that mean? Chaney Johnson, Dylan Cardwell, Janai, because Janai does so many great things on the offensive end, Tahad Pettiford and Denver Jones from time, and then Miles Kelly. I hope CBM comes back, but if you throw that grouping of 6 or 7 players out there and they're defending and communicating well, it's a different team. I mean, I'm all about Moore getting time. If Turtle gets time, so be it. But the moment those two guys come in, you go down. And if those two guys are taking minutes from Chaney Johnson, outside of him being winded, but if you look down on the stat totals, and unless Chaney's got foul trouble and he only gets 21 or 22 minutes, to me, you haven't given yourself your best chance to win.
Well, what you've seen with this team is what you see with all kind of teams, even with Auburn being so deep, that as you get deep into SEC play, it narrows down to about 7 guys that's going to get a majority of the minutes. And you may get a guy, like you said, with Semo and Turtle that get 5 or 6 here and there, and you're trying to steal. But that's why Bruce Pearl always says it's so important to build depth. And even though we've got a senior-laden team and we have supposedly the deepest team by most standards, it's really about 7 guys that you get majority of the playing time, maybe 8. Maybe you can stretch it out to 8. But outside of that, and the reason that being is because you want your best players on the floor for a majority of the minutes to give yourself a chance. And I agree with you. I think Chaney has definitely worked his way up, but there has been times where this year the coaching staff has given him, a lot of minutes in a game, and he scored 4 points. So he's got I love that version of what we saw in the second half of Vanderbilt.
The offense went through him in the second half, Brett.
Well, they fed him. They fed him. He was hot.
I don't know how often we come down on the offensive end and make a decision that we're running it through him. Most of the time it's run through Miles Kelly or Janai or somebody other than Chaney. Chaney's got to go get his. We changed that in the second half.
Yep.
And if you remember when Janai was out of the basketball out for a couple of games, we fed him then, and he produced. So
I think it maybe the coaching staff went in the locker room and saw a matchup they weren't exploiting. Yeah. And they said, look, hey, here you go, buddy. It's your game in the second half. We're going to trust you.
I mean, if Auburn's going to win a national championship, it's going to go with those 2 guys. I think everyone else is going to go get theirs. But what's the ceiling for Denver and Chaney as we close this season out? I think Miles Kelly's going to give you. I think CBM's going to come back. He's going to have a good close. But we need the best version of Denver Jones,
no doubt,
Chaney Johnson to win this thing, because Janai's going to get more and more healthy. And Janai, even we're sitting here questioning somebody that's averaging 18, 19, and 10 even when he's gimpy. Janai just puts numbers up. And he's going to have 2 or 3 blocks in every game to go along with that. How we can't get beat like we did Saturday at the point guard position. Can't get outscored by 15. I don't even know, but is that about what it was?
I'd have to look at it. Yeah, probably.
Their starter had 20 plus.
Yep.
And
Denver didn't have but 2 points, so you're off to a raging start for the other team there.
Yeah. So I hope we get the version we got at Davie. If we keep playing like that with those 2 guys and everybody else does what they're used to doing, it's going to be a special team.
Right. And, but the crazy thing is you look down to Miles Kelly, I mean, he was non-existent. CBM was non-existent. You don't know which guy that's going to go off for 20. And, that's the beautiful part about this. The same person doesn't have to have pressure on his back to
That's true.
always go out there and score 25 points to give yourself a chance to win. So again, they recognize something in the locker room with a matchup with Chaney Johnson. Denver, thank goodness, was hitting everything he was shooting in the first half, because if he hadn't, we'd have been down 10 or 12 points at halftime. So that's the great thing about it. Just want everybody to be confident and understand that really it comes down to the defensive effort.
Yeah.
And if you continue to play defense the way we normally play defense, you're going to win a lot of games coming down the stretch.
Well, they'll embrace that or they won't. I mean, I'm as confident as anyone out there that this coaching staff's going to be pleading with this team to give the effort that we've seen in the past, and I think they will. I think I'm very much looking forward to Saturday, Brett. Baseball getting kicked off. We'll have baseball starting up. I don't have a really good feel, but I know Auburn's got 2 or 3 players that everybody wants. Now, can the pitching staff come together and Butch Thompson get this thing back on the tracks? And it needs to be this year, doesn't it?
It does need to be this year. I think Coach Thompson is excited about this team. You know, we had him on the show to start last year, and he was a little, he was talking about how great the fortune was the year before and how things went in our favor in a lot of close games. And man, it was right the opposite that year, this past year. At close games, we just couldn't either get the key hit or get the key out at the plate or whatever. And we lost a lot of close games. So, and you've said it a million times that the margin of error in this league is very, very small. And one booted ball in the field, or one bad pitch, or one bad play defensively can cost you a series, can cost you a game, can cost you a series, which in the end of the day could cost you at the end of the season and being able to make postseason. So everybody's good. This league's brutal in every sport. It just keeps getting better in every sport. So you just understand that, and you go out there and you get the best players you possibly can, and you coach them up the best way you possibly can and try to go win it. So
I got a lot of confidence. Thrilled with Butch Thompson. One down year is not going to turn me negative on him by no means, as Faith steps in. So I'll be stepping away. Faith, glad to have you on. Talk about Lee Apparel and Sign Source, Brett, and then you can hit on a couple more of our sponsors as I roll off. But Lee Apparel and Sign Source got some signage up on the building here in Auburn yesterday. We'll be housing this building starting next Monday. It's right next door to Laredo's on Opelika Road, right up from the mall. So if you'd like to stop by in the Auburn area and work with us, we'd love to work with you out there. You'll see some other signage going up here in the next week or so. So from sign start to finish, from design work on vehicle wraps to digital boards to lighted signs to channel letters, all the way down to just regular yard signs. Sign Source can handle it all. And Lee Apparel, custom screen printing, DTF printing, embroidery, athletic uniforms, Richardson hats. We do a lot of those, Brett. 256-825-0197 is our phone number. And Faith, glad to have you. I'll step aside. Thank y'all.
Bye, Randy.
And while we're at it, we'll go ahead and talk about Sensagreen for air that's cool and clean. And it's a little cool outside today, man. This weather can't figure out what it wants to do. The Carrier experts, also proud supporters of Auburn Athletics, Sensagreen. Make sure you call on them if you're looking for a new heating and air unit for your house, commercial. They'll handle it all the way around. And Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm handling and specializing in educational projects, new school builds, renovations, whatever it is that you're looking for. Call on Scout Program Management. And Bunkers in downtown Auburn. The number one place for me and Faith for our lunch is Bunkers. Go out there and hang out with them. Saturday, if you don't have plans, you're not going to Tuscaloosa, go to Bunkers. Take all your buddies and hang out. Plenty of flat screen TVs. You got that full service bar there. The food's outstanding. Don't work. Just go have fun and go watch the game at Bunkers. So go out to Bunkers in West Glen in downtown Auburn. Plenty of parking there for you in the parking deck as well. And then a little shameless promo for us on next Friday. We'll be at Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine on location for the show at noon, not the podcast. So you'll get a double dose of us on next Friday for all of you out there. we'll start with our podcast at 8 o'clock, and then we'll be at Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine on East Glen in Auburn there for the noon show. Faith, good to see you this morning. It is Thursday. We got comments rolling in. We'll have a little bit shorter show because we got some meetings to go to this morning, so we've got to get on the road. But we want to get to some of these comments. Glenn said Chaney's got to stay out of foul trouble, and Broom's attitude will be a big part of the game, good or bad. I couldn't agree more with you, Glenn, on both of those. Justin said we got to keep them off the offensive boards, and then the Chaney versus Nelson will be a big matchup there. Ed said Chaney is this team's Chuma, and it's time for him to go because he can. Glenn said the Georgia game, he did it. He didn't get the touches. So, again, you got to get those touches, and I love what Chaney did in the second half. I know you did too as well. Faith, and then, of course, Rebel Yell said he thinks we're going to get run out of the gym this weekend. For weeks now, I've been trending down, and Bama the opposite. Oates is a no-nonsense, and we'll have them prepared. Meanwhile, BP is focused on Black history. I can't – I don't agree with that at all, Rebel. I think Bruce Pearl does a great job of preparing and working his rear end off with this team. You're going into a hostile environment. So, Bruce Pearl is
he can focus on more than one thing.
Well, I think I'll take him. And look, Nate Oates is a great coach, but I hope you're wrong. I don't think we're trending down. I think we've hit a little bit of a lull, but we've been able to fight through it, and I think we'll be okay. Again, that doesn't mean we go over there and get a win Saturday, but I don't think they're going to come to Auburn in March and get a win either. So, which one can we go over? I'm glad they're going first. I'm glad we're at their place first. I'll put it that way. We'll get the final say. Justin said, will Luke make it on time for Saturday Sports Countdown this week? Good chance of a big no, Justin. He's been sleeping in lately, so we'll see how that goes. And Justin said, yeah, Auburn still has been winning. So, that's a good thing, Faith. If you kind of hit a lull, you're struggling a little bit, and you're still finding ways to win. I know we lost to Florida, but look, this team, you don't want to peak right now. We've done that in the past, and we've gone out early in the tournament.
Look at Tennessee. Tennessee so early in the season. They were ranked number 1. They peaked early, and then now look at them. They're losing they've lost 5 games now?
Yep. So
that's not us.
It's not us, and it's a it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I can't remember who it was yesterday that made a comment. Nobody's playing or has played the level of a schedule, maybe outside Alabama, that we played. So, it's been physical. It's been tough. We got guys banged up. We got guys playing through stuff. We're not 100% right now. I think that has to be taken into effect. Why you look at other teams maybe giving you their best shot, and then you're kind of brought back a little bit because of injuries and being banged up, it brings you closer to center. It makes your team now a little bit more comparable to that team. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just part of it. And we've got several more games to go, and we'll focus one at a time. And I think Saturday is going to be a heck of a matchup. And that's why I said to start the show, Faith, the biggest game in SEC regular season history. From a ranking standpoint, it is. There's never been a 1 versus 2 in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a game that we're obviously all looking forward to, but I mean, I think after this game, not that it'll determine who's actually 1 and who's actually number 2 in the league, but it'll definitely have a lot to say about both of the teams and their physicality and the offense and defensive play for sure. But I still don't think it'll determine who's actually number 1 and 2. I think there's got to be a lot more.
It's just for this moment of time.
Yeah,
it's just in this
and it's
moment.
Like you said earlier, that you've got to enjoy the moment while you can.
Right.
And like we said, this is the first time it's 1 and 2 during the regular season. And so you got to just enjoy it, and you've got to enjoy the Iron Bowl or whatever in
And then, once the game's over, it's off to the next one. And I
right,
think
and we're turning back around, and you
that's
got
right.
something else to focus on.
That's right. And both teams are going to have to do that. And
That's why I'm glad that we do have the last say.
right. Well, I mean, you don't hang a banner for this game. I mean, you
Right.
gotta keep it in perspective. Now it's going to be a fun game. There's a lot on the line from a standpoint of you got 1 versus 2, but this isn't going to determine whether either one of these teams wins a national championship. Now it could go towards seeding down the line, but for the most part, it's just another regular season game in the stretch of trying to get to the end of the season with the best record. So we'll see how it all plays out. Rebel said not closing on Phylon and not getting another big man in all season will cost us a run this year. I think we get bounced the second and we have 0 point guard. Rebel, I hope we can turn your mentality around. I see a little bit about
team are you on over here?
Well, I see kind of what he's saying about hitting a little bit of a lull, but I don't think this is defining who we are as the big picture. I mean, we've got to see the entire picture, and every team. Iowa State hit a lull a couple of weeks ago, and they lost 3 in a row. So we're going to be fine. I feel good about it. Justice said Flanagan's why we didn't get Phylon. Auburn's number 1 in the country, gets the toughest record. How can anyone complain? Rebel, just go get you some happy juice and get ready for Saturday. Maybe that'll turn your mentality around. There's your fan there, Faith. Desperado makes an appearance again. Said I'm worried about Bama. CBM has some problems, an issue between him and Brees. I don't know that CBM's having a problem with Bruce. I think he's banged up. I think he's all out of sorts, maybe because he's not fully healthy, and that affects players when you're trying to, push through and you're not able to do quite the things that you normally can do when you're healthy. I think Janai Broom's going through that as well, from a mental standpoint of a player. When you're hampered by things and you're banged up, it's frustrating. So, but I think the whole part of this is what we had a comment earlier, that they have to keep their mental state they can't get baited in to some crap like we did last year. We had a good shot in Tuscaloosa last year, and we let that one play with Wagyu stomping on Janai Broom's hand get us all out of sorts, and they went on that run and ended up winning the basketball game. So you just got to know that it's going to be a 40-minute war, and you can't let the mental thing overcome you. And you just got to stay strong, and you got to rely on each other. I think there's going to be a good number of Auburn fans there, because we were looking at the ticket prices, and I think a lot of the ones that are on StubHub and SeatGeek, wherever it is that you buy them in the secondhand market, Auburn fans are buying them up because they're not as much in Tuscaloosa as they are in Neville Arena in March. You can just go look at it. So you can get tickets cheaper for this matchup than you can the one in Auburn. So there'll be some Auburn fans buying those tickets up.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I told you I'll go on Saturday.
We'll just meet there, right?
Yeah, if someone can please find me a ticket.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get a GoFundMe there for Faith to go into Coleman Coliseum. And we just got to get Lyndon there with you. If you two could go and sit right behind Alabama's bench, that might do it. It would be
a little test.
It would be a shoe-in win for sure. So, yeah, Desperado said AU standing room is $774.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of money right now, so
won't be standing for 700. Hey, and look, the students get in now in one of the 3 portals. You can stand, so they're getting in before some of these other people that are buying standing room only tickets. So, man, you may buy a standing room only ticket and be 3 deep.
Yeah, you're gonna have someone that's probably 6'2" in front of you, and you're just gonna be.
And maybe somebody hadn't taken a shower in about 3 or 4 days because they've been out there in that.
If they've been out there camping, they didn't get mom to stand in the tent or sit in the tent while they got to go home and shower this last time.
Right. Justin said get a media credential, Faith. We're working on that, aren't we, Faith?
We are.
We are working on that. So we'll hopefully get some news on that next week. Faith, we're going to cut it short here this morning because of
We have a busy day.
Yeah, we do have a busy day, and we got high school basketball this afternoon, so I'm going to be running all over the place. I'll be all up and down the road, so we're going to get this day started. But we appreciate everybody as always. Again, going back, thanking our sponsors. Want to go down and thank Sure Shot. Again, had somebody come up to me yesterday and say how much they love Sure Shot. They buy all their stuff there, and they were proud to see that Sure Shot was part of our program now. We're proud to see that Sure Shot's part of our program. And firearms, apparel, hunting, whatever it is, they sell and trade new and used firearms. The Browning 22s, they've got those. If you're looking for any type of gun, they have all types, shotguns, rifles, handguns. They've got a lot of rare guns. If you're looking for something, Scott can find it for you. Give them a call, 256-329-0080 on Highway 280 here in Alexander City. And then also want to thank Oliver Ross being part of the program now, a full-service bartending group that goes around, and you can book them for your parties, big events, whatever it is, for 20,000 people down to 200 people, or even down to 50 people. Licensed bartenders, experienced. They'll come and they'll handle all of that service for you at your next party or gathering. So look into Oliver Ross. Go and Google them. We'll put their website up and we'll give you some more information on them. But they have been the bartending service go-to group for a lot of Auburn University events, frat parties, sorority parties. I know Buckmasters and Montgomery uses them for their big expos. So that says enough right there. So make sure to call on Oliver Ross. We're appreciating them for joining the Auburn Blitz podcast, Faith. And, of course, Cincy Green and Scout Program Management along with Bunkers. Couldn't do the show without any of them, and we really appreciate that. Just real quick before we go, just said I've got $100 toward lending a ticket for is it
Saturday?
For Saturday? Yeah, thank you for interpreting. She's been too much good luck. So there you go, Lyndon. Yeah, he corrected himself down there.
Justin's just hating on me.
Yeah, he's not.
Justin doesn't want me to go. Justin, I was there for the Ole Miss game.
Yeah, I mean, he just openly said that he's got 100 for Lyndon, and
he likes Lyndon more than me.
And then have 100 for you. So, all right, Jeff said, do you know of an Auburn booster that paid $12.50 a piece? 4 tickets, couple rows behind the Auburn bench. That's $6,000.
Again, I don't have that kind of money right now.
Hey, if you got it, go spend it.
I wish.
If you don't,
be a booster. I don't have that money.
The money's what makes you a booster.
I know. I know.
So, but anyway, we're going to get out, guys. I got to hit the road. It's been fun. We'll be on, we won't be, but somebody will be at noon today for the Auburn Blitz show. So make sure you tune that in right back here on YouTube, Facebook, and Charter Channel 701. But everybody have a great day. Be careful out there, and War Eagle.
War Eagle.